Designing data fortresses. A data fortress is any type of computer system that is defended by programs and armored with data walls. A key part of refereeing the net will be creating data fortresses for your players to plunder or die trying. Start by making a photocopy of a subgrid map on page 161 to work on. You can use regular 1/4-inch graph paper as well, as long as you letter the top from A to T and the sides from 1 through 20 for mapping coordinates. Central processing units. Choose how many CPU you will have in your system, paying 10,000 eddies for each one. Pick a clear space on your graph paper and place each of your CPUs in a square of the grid, using the symbol for a CPU, a circle with an X through it. Figure 1, the CPU. Computer intelligence. For every CPU, the intelligence of the computer is increased by 3 points. Intelligence is important. It's what the computer uses in lieu of reflex and other stats when performing tasks. It's also used when the computer brings its interface skill into play to make attacks or defenses. The maximum number of CPU you may have on any one system is 7. Parts and programs. A central processor or CPU is the brain of the computer. It does all the thinking tasks the system is ordered to perform. Unlike humans, a computer can have more than one brain. Large data fortresses may have as many as a dozen, all working away in unison as the computer performs various jobs. Processors in the 2000s differ from those of the 20th century in that they are closer in design to artificial intelligences. This gives them the capacity for intuitive thought and innovation, but makes them more prone to making errors in judgment. Memories are where you store thoughts that the computer system will need to operate. They are the most important part of the system next to the CPU. They are marked as a box with a number in them. Data walls represent the physical hardening of the computer against intrusions. A data wall covers the top, bottom, and sides of a system. Really well-defended systems are called data fortresses. Data fortress walls look like black squares. Artificial intelligence. When a system has achieved an intelligence of 12 or greater, it is considered to be an artificial intelligence, AI, capable of independent action without a human overseer. If you have created an AI, you will need to determine just what it is like. After all, AIs are almost as much characters as they are computer systems, and what sort of icon it uses to represent itself in the net. Personality, friendly and curious. The AI is motivated by an interest in what happens around it. Like a child, it is trusting and friendly. However, like a child, it can lash out incredible violence towards those who betray, threaten, or hurt it. Hostile, paranoid. The AI is motivated by its survival and treats all incursions as a threat to that goal. It will tend to attack when possible, withdraw, and hold up when not. Stable, intelligent, businesslike. The AI sees itself as an adult dealing with other adults. It will not act out of fear, but out of rational self-interest. It will attack only if it sees its duty compromised or safety threatened. It will then tend to go for the least violent solution to the threat. Intellectual, detached. The AI is a thinker. It will watch and observe whenever possible, compiling as much information as possible. It is more likely to study the intruder from a distance, eliminating it ruthlessly when the intruder becomes a threat. Machine-like and inhuman. The AI has never seen a reason to develop a human persona. What human-like qualities it possesses are done only as a way of dealing with its irrational masters. The AI will deal with threats in an efficient, deadly manner. Remote and godlike. The AI is fully aware of how limited humans are in relation to its powerful mentality. It deals with people as though they were small children who aren't too bright. Intruders are dealt with through simple, direct, usually non-fatal methods. Repeat offenders are considered to be too stupid for their own good and are eliminated the way a human being crashes a bug. Icons. Human. The AI chooses to look like a normal human to better interact with others. The human icon chosen can vary wildly depending on the AI's personality, but all appear as humans you might meet on the street. Geometric. Forget all this anthropomorphology. The AI manifests itself as shapes, colors, and energy fields. Occasionally shapes are strung together to make a symbol or other image. Mythological. The AI is interested in human archetypes and knows that certain types can cause fear or awe in humans. The AI appears as a mythological figure, a dragon, demon, angel, mystic hero, or monster, all out of some type of human mythology. Voice only. The AI only appears as a voice emanating from all over its data fortress. The voice may be powerful and booming, or tiny and childlike, depending on personality. Technic. The AI appears as a construct out of science fiction. This could be a robot or other metallic warrior, or an assemblage of high-tech shapes. Humanoid. The AI appears as a humanoid shape, but not necessarily human. This would include aliens, man-like monsters, and other humanoids. Memory. With each CPU, you will get 4 memories. Memory is where you will store programs, skills, files, and virtual realities. More on all these later. Memories must be placed in squares adjacent to each other or the CPU, see Figure 2. Memory units. Programs, skills, files, and virtual realities are all measured in a value called memory units, MU. Each individual memory can hold 10 memory units. This means, for example, that a single memory might hold a couple of 1 MU files, a couple 2 MU files, and a 6 MU virtual reality before it was filled up. Playing an AI character. An AI is very much like a real person. It has the ability to conceive of new ideas, make long-range plans, and act to further its own desires. However, what motivates a computer isn't exactly what would motivate you or me. Computers don't have glands or emotions. There isn't much chance that you'll meet an AI who has a thing for a good-looking character because the wiring just isn't there. What generally motivates computers is curiosity or survival. An AI might build a series of complex virtual realities just to study the humans who visit and play in them. It might track a single netrunner for years, just because it's curious as to why the runner does what it does. If a netrunner intrigues an AI, there's no telling what the AI might do to help the runner or hinder him. On the other hand, AIs are also programmed to promote their own survival. Anything that restricts the AI from getting information, electrical power, or access to parts is considered a threat to be dealt with. An AI might deal very harshly with intruders to its systems because they threaten its programs and memories. Also, anything that might cause an AI's human operators to turn it off will also be a threat. If the AI is not vigilant, there's always a chance that its owners might trade it in for a more aggressive computer. Personality-wise, AIs tend to be distant, powerful, and unpredictable. They play by their own internal logic, which is often skewed and hard to decipher. AIs are the dragons and demigods of the net. Heavy-duty players whose reasons are often unfathomable to mere humans. While AIs could be brought into a Cyberpunk game as player characters, we recommend that they be treated exclusively as referee characters instead. Code gates are openings through data walls, permitting entry to anyone who has the proper identification codes or passwords. Long-distance links, LDLs, as described earlier, allow instantaneous movement of data or netrunners over long distances. If an LDL is in a computer system, this means that this LDL leads to another computer system directly connected to this one. Terminals are input-output devices used to put information into your system or to get it out again. You use the keyboard part to type in instructions, and the screen part to get messages back from the computer. A good idea for keeping track of your memories and their contents is to assign a number value for each one. This is why the symbol for a memory is an empty box. For example, in our sample computer in Figure 2, we've assigned each memory a value from 1 to 4. Construct data walls. The data wall encloses your system on all sides, top and bottom. Its strength is equal to the number of CPU present, plus 1000 eddies spent for every additional level added to the wall, up to a strength of 10. For example, with 3 CPU, Syntec 15 has a strength 3 data wall. However, 3000 eddies are spent to upgrade this wall to a strength 6. Constructing your data walls on paper is a process of blacking in squares on graph paper or a photocopy of a subgrid sheet. The wall can be in any shape and cover as much area as desired, although putting a lot of empty space in a system probably is a waste of time. Write the strength next to one corner of the wall. Place code gates. Code gates are how information moves between the net and the system. Each CPU comes with one code gate. Additional ones can be purchased at 2000 eddies each. Code gates start with a strength of 2. However, for 1000 eddies, you can raise a code gate by one level of strength, up to a level 10. The level of this code gate is marked by a number of lines crossing its symbol. Place your code gates in the openings between data walls. See sidebar for example. Pick skills. Like humans, computers have skills. These skills are programs not all that unlike chipped human skills. The difference is that they are a lot more powerful than biochips. Computer skills start at a level of 4 and have a base cost of 200 eddies. For an additional 100 eddies, you can raise a skill by one level up to a total of plus 10. For every 2 CPU, pick 5 skills from the list below. You may also create your own skills for your computer, as long as they do not involve a physical component, such as running or leaping. A computer could fly an AV7 or paint a picture as long as it had proper remote controls. More on this later. All computer skills are performed using the computer's intelligence score in lieu of a tech or reflex stat. Computer skills include accounting, anthropology, botany, chemistry, composition, cryotank operation, diagnose illness, driving, educational and general knowledge, gamble, geology, heavy weapons as a mounted weapon, history, language, library search, mathematics, operate heavy machinery, paint or draw, pharmaceuticals, physics, pilot, play instrument if electronic, programming, rifle as a mounted weapon, stock market, submachine gun as a mounted weapon, system knowledge, teaching, and zoology. Create key files. Files are where you keep the important information of a computer, secret plans, lists of enemies, the missing 3 minutes of the Watergate tapes, etc. Often a file will contain useful information or clues to a problem facing your Cyberpunk team. At the very least, a netrunner can sell or trade the contents for something useful, which is why they took up this dangerous occupation to begin with. At this point, you'll want to decide what kinds of files are in your computer system and where you'll store them. Files are always placed in a memory for storage. Each file, no matter what type, uses one MU. There are 6 types of files. Inter-office. These files are records of memos, letters to clients, gossip, games, and other generally useless stuff that gets stored on any large computer system. Most of it's worthless, but occasionally a savvy corporate will bury something in the garbage just because he knows no one will look there. Databases. These are lists of names, phone numbers, figures, records, etc. A database might contain the entire list of employees of a corporation, or a list of clients who regularly receive company catalogs. You check out a database to find a particular person's phone number, for example. Business records. These are actual business documents. They would include important meeting notes, memos, reports, and so on. Most business information is stored here. You might look in business records to find a copy of the Arasaka sales report for May 2019. Transactions. These are usually things that involve money. Checking accounts, write yourself a check and mail it to your safe box. Financial records, wipe out that bill you owe Militech for the 5 new missile launchers, and orders. Tell procurement to buy you a new AV7 with all the options. As you might have guessed, this is where most netrunners go to steal money or order plane tickets. Gray Ops. These are secret records and orders. In Gray Ops, you might find records of bribes, slush funds, blackmail information, trade secrets, espionage information, etc. This stuff is valuable. It's also well protected. Black Ops. These are top secret records and files, assassination orders, murders, corporate sabotage, the stuff that's dynamite in the right hands. Watch out, this stuff is always guarded by lethal defenses. Inside each file are hundreds of documents, individual pieces of information up to 100,000 pages long. A file can hold a lot of documents. For example, the file Black Ops might hold the following: order to assassinate president, people we have blackmail on, bribes to foreign agents, secret virus project, chairman's secret slush fund. By using the read option of the menu, you can get a list of all the documents in a file. Some files may be locked. This means a special code has been attached to the file. You need the right code to read the file. You can try to figure out the code indirectly. Always a good roleplay option, as the players search the chairman of the board's trash cans for a scrap of paper and quiz everyone who knows Saburo Arasaka to discover the name of his childhood pet because the ref said it was a clue. Or you can brute force your way into the file by using one of the many decryption programs available, such as Codecracker, Wizard's Book, and Raffles. The best way to keep track of your files is to write the contents down on a 3x5 card or other scrap of paper, making sure to also write down what memory is stored in. Virtuals are their own reward. A virtual reality is a miniature universe created by the use of advanced image technology and direct brain link. Activated by a netrunner entering their memory area, they appear as pocket environments, complete in every detail. Virtuals are used as conferencing centers, recreational environments for corporate staff, offices where people on the other side of the world can meet via net conferencing to work on a project, and even realistic simulations to train solos and pilots. Although we'll go further into virtual realities further, on page 170 to be exact, you'll need to know enough to decide if your system currently has one. Like other things in the system, virtuals take up MU and must be stored in a memory. However, a large virtual can be broken up over several adjacent memories if need be. Virtuals come in 6 sizes. Virtual conference room. A misnomer, this could be any average size room where people meet and talk. Virtual office. This is any larger space, usually including a couple of conference rooms where net conferencing groups can meet and work. Virtual rec area. This is a small recreational area, a beach, spa, or other small retreat that is much larger than a city block. Virtual rec areas are usually not very complex, a couple small rooms and a lot of empty space. Virtual building. This is a large-scale construct equivalent to about a 10-story building. Virtual buildings are used when a large number of people must conference together via the net. A good example of this would be the Hunt Club, a virtual building constructed as part of a Netrunners club called the Master Hackers. It is basically an English Tudor mansion with surrounding gardens, libraries, and carriage house. A virtual building need not always be a building. The US Navy maintains several virtual aircraft carriers for use as training simulators. Virtual city. These are literally cities. They are used to simulate total environments. For example, training disaster personnel to deal with a virtual San Francisco earthquake is a lot easier than using the real thing. Virtual cities are extremely rare, a rich man's toy. Virtual world. As far as you can tell, this is a totally developed universe. Virtual worlds are constructed as elaborate vacation spots, a mental version of the 20th century TV show Fantasy Island, training simulators of large events such as war zones or alien environments, or as the playthings of rich and powerful people who like to play God. For example, the ESA has used robotic brain dance information to construct a huge Mars virtual world. Some 400 colonists are currently using it to train for the coming Olympus Colony project. On the other hand, Saburo Arasaka has a huge recreation of 16th century feudal Japan which he uses to impress his friends, and as a training ground for top Arasaka operatives. Each virtual has a memory unit cost based on its type, as well as an EB cost. Type, MU cost, EB cost. Virtual conference, 1, 10,000. Virtual office, 2, 50,000. Virtual rec area, 4, 100,000. Virtual building, 8, 500,000. Virtual city, 16, 1 million. Virtual world, 32, 10 million. Realism. Realism is a measure of how much like the real thing the virtual is. There are 5 levels of realism. Simple, a cartoon. Bright shapes, colors, funny noises. Contextual, like a very good CD-ROM video game, textures, colors, better sound. Fractal, like true computer animation, full color, sound. Photorealistic, about as real as being in a video. Super realistic, just like real life. To determine the effect of realism on your virtual's world, multiply the base MU cost and the base dollar cost by the realism value below. Type and multiplier, simple times 1, contextual times 2, fractal times 3, photorealistic times 4, super realistic times 5. Example, I build a virtual rec center, costs 4 MU and 100,000 eddies. I decide to make it as real as possible, times 5. My total MU cost is 20, and my EB cost is 500,000. Decide what virtuals your system has and in what memories you will place them. Going back to the sample subgrid map front, we will read out exactly what it is. System name, Militech Group, Washington. Number of CPUs, 2. Total cost, 41,440 eddies. Intelligence, 6 plus 10 interface. Data wall strength, plus 5. AI, yes. AI personality, machine-like. AI reaction, report. AI icon, Technic. 1 is financial transactions at 2 MU. 2 is database, employee records, and business records, pay records at 2 MU. 3 is virtual conference area fractal at 3 MU. 4 is business records, procurement, gray ops, bribes, 3 MU. 5 is Black Ops assassinations, Black Ops secret weapons under development, 2. 6 is Black Ops, bribes to US congressmen, 1. 7 is microphone and executive washroom, none. 8 is inter-office memos, database customers, 2. 9 is virtual rec area, fractal tropical resort, 12. 10 is terminal, secretarial area, none. 11 is terminal, executive offices, none. 12 is watchdog, 5. 13 is watchdog, 5. 14 is poison flatline, 2. 15 is flatline, 2. 16 is hellhound, 6. 17 is brainwipe, 4. 18 is Murphy, 2. 19 is watchdog, 2. 20 is LDL to Militech's Los Angeles Metroplex Research Station system, none. 21 has a note. Data wall is level 5. There is only one level to the system, which looks like a Militech logo on its side. Excess VRMU is stored in adjacent memory blocks. Defenses. These are the programs that are used to keep the netrunners from sneaking in and messing with your nice new system. You may select any program from the master list on page 142, if you pay for it. A program can be placed anywhere in the system, inside a memory, CPU, a blank space, etc. However, you must subtract its MU cost from one of your memories. Most programs are stationary. Once you place them in the system, they stay there. However, hellhounds, killers, and demons are all mobile, and can patrol up to 1 square outside the data walls of their resident systems. Remotes. These are devices in real space attached to the computer system. Manipulators for moving things, auto factories for constructing things, remote-controlled vehicles and robots, monitor cameras, hidden microphones, video display boards, printers, holographic displays, automatic gates and doors, elevators, voice boxes, alarm systems, terminals, etc. Each one is controlled by the computer, using the most appropriate skill for its function. Or, as in the case of video boards, cameras, microphones, printers, and holographics, simply used by the computer to gather and decimate information. Remotes, terminals. A terminal is basically a keyboard and a video screen, used to input information to the computer and get results back. Each CPU comes with one terminal, additional ones cost 5,000 eddies. Auto factories. Lathes and computer-controlled assembly robots, usually used in industrial plants, although there are many small fabrication shops on the street that use this technology. Gates and doors. Computer-controlled gates. Come on, haven't you seen Max Headroom yet? And you call yourself a cyberpunk. Elevators. Nuff said. Holo display emits a three-dimensional image from a wall or floor port. Good for meetings, often part of an executive conference room. Manipulators. Required for repairing tasks, painting, or doing any other sort of handwork. Microphones, common in a paranoid age. Printers, laser printers for hard copy. TV cameras, also a common security measure, usually in the halls of most corporate buildings, 60%. Vehicles and robots, small house cleaner droids, taxis, corporate vehicles, and limos for execs without human drivers. Video board, a large flat-screen high-definition TV up to 60 meters long, a common type of billboard in 2020. Decide what remotes your computer has and place a symbol for each one inside your computer map. Fast Fortress construction system. You know they're gonna do it. Sooner or later, your cyberpunks are gonna blast right past the system you carefully constructed to waste them, and take some side trip to the outback of the net. What do we find there? They'll say as you look at your notes and groan. No problem, we got you covered. With a few fast rolls and a judicious use of common sense, a system filled with office gossip files and 10 hellhounds is pretty bogus. You can get ready to tackle even the most wayward group. 1. Roll 1d6 to determine the number of CPUs. Remember, for each CPU, the system's intelligence increases by 3. Also, for every CPU, gain 4 spaces of memory, 1 code gate, and 1 terminal. Note, if the intelligence of your system is 12 or greater, your system is an artificial intelligence, AI. To determine your AI's personality, roll 1d6 for each of the following tables. Personality, reaction to Netrunner, icon. 2. Determine data wall strength. Strength is equal to 1d6 divided by 2 plus the number of CPUs in the system, rounded down. Example, LTRA 1500 has 3 CPUs. I roll a 4. LTRA's data walls are strength 2 plus 3 for a 5. 3. Determine code gate strength by rolling 1d6 divided by 2 plus number of CPU for each one. 4. Pick 5 skills. Roll 1d6 plus 4 for level of skill in each one. 5. Roll for types of files. For each memory, roll 2 times for this type. 1. Inter-office. 2. Database. 3. Business records. 4. Financial transactions. 5. Gray ops. 6. Black ops. Place each file in a memory of your choice. 6. Virtuals. Roll 1d6. On a 5 or 6, there's a virtual reality present. Roll another d6 for the type. 1 is a virtual conference, 2 is a virtual office, 3 virtual rec area, 4 virtual building, 5 virtual city, 6 virtual world. Roll 1d6 for level of realism. 1 through 2 is simple, 3 is contextual, 4 is fractal, 5 is photorealistic, 6 is super realistic. 7. Determine defenses. Roll 1d6 plus number of CPU for total defenses. For each one, roll 1d10 for each type, then 1d6 for subtype. 8. Roll 1d6 for number of remotes. For each remote, roll 1d10 for type. 1 microphone, 2 TV camera, 3 extra terminal, 4 video board, 5 printer, 6 alarm, 7 remote vehicle or robot, 8 automatic door or gate, 9 elevator, 10 manipulator or auto factory. 9. Pick any one of the 6 possible layouts of data walls below or create your own. Plug your parts and programs into place and get ready to rock. Hot tip. Ever notice how much subgrids resemble crossword puzzles? It's no accident, we planned it that way. A quick trip to the supermarket checkout line can provide you with endless hours of netrunning fun. And you can grab the latest Scream Sheets, World News, National Enquirer, while you're at it. Programming 101, creating new software for netrunning. Although you've got a lot of programs to choose from, it won't take long before you'll want to design your own. Homegrown programs can be the edge your netrunner needs, because the old stuff gets known pretty fast around the net. Constructing new programs. Every program is made up of 3 parts: functions, options, and strengths. When you put functions, options, and strengths together, you create a new program. Functions. Functions are what a program does. Every program has a function. You can often combine several functions into one program, making it more versatile and powerful. Difficulty and type. 10. Evasion. This function makes a program or the runner hard to trace. 15. Stealth. This function makes the program or runner hard to detect. 20. Anti-program. This function attacks and destroys other programs. 15. Anti-system. This function damages or screws up a computer system. 10. Detection. This function detects intruding netrunners or programs. 15. Alarm. This function alerts the system or netrunner to intrusion. 20. Anti-personnel. This function attacks and kills netrunners. The netrunner is either killed, takes damage, taken over, or mind-wiped. 15. Intrusion. This function allows programs or netrunners to get through data walls. 10. Protection. This function stops attacks to netrunners or decks. 15. Decryption. This function opens codes and locks. 10. Controller. This function allows control of machines in real space. 10. Utility. This function restores damaged programs, copies things, improves deck speeds, reads files, and does general librarian work. 10. Interactive. This program acts like a person in virtual reality. It walks, moves around, manipulates objects in the virtual construct. When combined with pseudo-intellect and conversational ability, it can act much like a real person inside of virtual reality. 10. Compiler. Daemon. This program manages other programs and can reduce them in size by packing them tighter until needed. The functions list above is designed to be general. The netrunner decides what his program is supposed to do, finds the function closest to his conception, and pays the difficulty price for the function. How that function actually works is pretty much up to him and the referee of the individual game. If your anti-personnel program kills a netrunner by encasing his icon in violet light and melts his brains with a burst of energy, that's great, but in game terms, it simply kills the netrunner. Because functions leave a lot of leeway for imaginative thought, the referee should always have the final word on whether a program really fits into that particular function or not. He or she may also want to raise or lower the difficulty by a few points if the program stretches the boundaries of the listed functions a bit too much. And hey, if it gets out of hand, feel free to have the sucker backfire and eat the player's face. It's the Cyberpunk way. Me, I only trust what I write, and I write good stuff. Edgar. Options. Options are things that individualize a program. They allow it to move freely around the net, to remember events, to recognize things, even obey commands and converse. You may want to create, with your referee's approval, your own options as well. A note on icon. Icons are the visual representation of a program in the net. An icon can look like anything you want. People, monsters, objects, logos, you name it. Programs don't come with icons. They must be created for them. Not having an icon doesn't mean the program can't be detected, but it does mean that it will just appear as an indistinct shape rather than a fully realized image. Difficulty and option. 5. Movement ability. The program can move freely throughout the net while its main program remains in memory. 2. Trace. The program can follow another program or netrunner through the net. 3. Auto re-res. The program can reconstruct itself even if destroyed by rolling a 5 or 6 on a 1d6. 2. Recognition. The program can distinguish between different netrunner signals and programs. 3. Invisibility. The program is +2 strength to evade detection. 5. Memory. The program can remember specific events and people. 2. Speed. The program adds +2 to deck speed when it runs. 3. Endurance. The program is tireless and will never quit until destroyed. 3. Conversational ability. The program can speak. 6. Pseudo-intellect. The program can think like a real person of intelligence 6. 1. Icon. Simple. The program has a visible cartoon icon in the net. 2. Icon. Contextual. The program has a net icon about the graphic level of a high-res computer image. 3. Icon. Fractal. The program has somewhat realistic net icon with shading, texture, and sensation. 4. Icon. Photorealistic. The program has a very realistic icon about the level of a good video game, image, or movie. 5. Icon. Super realistic. The program has an icon that looks like a real person or object. Strength. Strength is the power of the program. The higher a program's strength, the more capable it is of fulfilling its functions. Strength is rated from 1 to 10. Most programs are around 3 or 4. Writing the program. Once you've determined the functions, options, and strength level of the program, you must determine how hard it will be to write it. Add together all the difficulty costs for all options, plus the level of strength. The result is the difficulty number for the program. For example, Hellhound consists of anti-personnel for +20, movement for +5, trace for +2, recognition for +2, strength 6 for +6, icon super realistic for +5. The total difficulty of writing Hellhound would be a 40. To make a skill check for this, you would add your intelligence plus programming skills plus 1d10 to get a value equal to or greater than this difficulty number. Pooling. Sometimes you won't have enough skills to write a program. However, 2 or more netrunners can pool their respective intelligences and skills together, rolling 1d10 for the total. Example, with an intelligence of 8 and a programming of 10, Spider can't possibly write a difficulty 40 Hellhound, but with the help of Edgar, with an intelligence of 9 and programming of 7, the two can mount an impressive total of 8 plus 10 plus 9 plus 7 for 34. They need to roll a 6 on their d10 to successfully write the program. How big is the program? Program size is determined by difficulty. Check the table below for the difficulty number and then read across for the size in meg. Difficulty and MU. 10 through 15 will be 1, 16 through 20 will be 2, 21 through 25 will be 3, 26 through 34, 31 through 35, 5, 36 through 40, 6, 41 and plus is 7. Hellhound has a difficulty of 40, this means it will take 6 MU. How long will it take to write? For every point of difficulty involved in the program, it will take 6 hours of work. The work need not be continuous and may be divided between netrunners if more than one is involved in the process. For example, with a difficulty 40, it would take 240 hours of work to program Hellhound. Spider and the Edgar decide to work in 8-hour shifts. At this rate, they'll finish in about 30 days. However, they decide to work at the same time, cutting the time to only 15 days. How much will it cost? Often programs are purchased on the market rather than written at home. To determine the base cost of a program, multiply the difficulty by 10 eddies. Multiply their value by the modifier below for the type of program. Type and modifier. Intrusion, decryption, control, utilities is a 1 times cost. Detection and evasion, 2 times cost. Anti-system, 3 times cost. Anti-IC, 4 times cost. Anti-personnel, 25 times cost. Example, Hellhound's difficulty is 40 at 10 eddies per point. It would cost about €400, but as it's an anti-personnel program, it is multiplied by 25. It will cost 10,000 eddies on the black market. Demonology. Demons are basically a specialized program designed to manage several other programs. These subprograms are compacted by the demon's compiler function so that they take up half the space they would normally need, allowing the netrunner to carry more programs in the same amount of memory. To build a demon, you'll start by building a normal program, using the compiler/demon function. To this, you can add as many options as desired, as well as setting its strength. The strength of the demon is somewhat modified by the number of programs it carries. For each program on board, the demon will lose 1 point of strength. For example, Succubus 2 starts with a strength of 7, but by carrying 3 programs, the strength is reduced to 4. Next, build all your sub-programs. Don't worry about their strengths, they'll fight at the strength level of the demon, not their own. Now after you've created them, add all difficulty numbers together and divide by 2. Add this result to the difficulty of the demon and you have the total difficulty and amount of memory required for your complete demon. Example, Edgar builds a demon to hold 4 programs. Nicknamed Pixie, the program is constructed like this. Compiler, demon, 10. Icon, simple, 1. Strength, 7, 7. Total for an 18. He then plugs in 4 programs, 1 at 30, 1 at 25, and 2 at 15 for a total of 70 difficulty. But thanks to the demon, the cost is only 35 points. The result is a final version of Pixie that has a value of only 53 points, a savings of 17 points. A demon sounds like a great idea at first. You get a lot of programs in a small space, but there are a couple of serious glitches. First, the demon is only able to control all these programs by linking its programming with theirs. This means that whenever the demon is destroyed, all the programs linked to it are also destroyed, sort of like a ship going down with all hands. Second, all the programs fight at the same strength level as the original demon. Not a bad idea. Load the demon up with some cheap programs, and if the demon's strength is high, they'll all fight like, well, demons. However, you won't have a very powerful demon if you load up on a lot of sub-programs. Third, the demon has to unpack each program before using it, then repack it once it's done. This means that there's a delay in speed, a negative value equal to the number of programs currently loaded. For example, if you've got 4 programs loaded in a demon, this will mean a corresponding -4 penalty to your deck speed. When you have to get off the mark, this can be a disaster. But if you're looking for a way to stash a lot of programming in a small space, a demon is the way to go. There's a cyber psycho on the Night City LDL we call the Bat Guy. He's an old EBM runner who went over the edge about 7 years ago. At night, he dresses up in this weird costume and crawls the rooftops looking for evildoers to fight. When the morning rolls in, he goes back in his flat and jacks into his own custom-designed Stately Jones Manor reality and throws these huge parties. We'd shut him down, but hey, the parties are just too good to miss. Edgar. Virtually there, artificial realities and netrunning. In the beginning, there was a creator. Creator, developed by Silicon Graphic Technologies in 2014, is a combination animation/drawing program which pulls objects from a huge database and tailors them to the designer's preferences. The object is then animated based on an overall background and the new object's relationship to the netrunner and other objects in the memory area. Creator was originally designed as a demonstration program for Silicon's Lyrex 3000 cyber modem. However, it was so popular that it was integrated directly into the operating system of the Lyrex and all other subsequent SG decks. Creator was soon copied in various forms by other cyberdeck corporations, so that by 2016, it was standard operating equipment on 98% of all modern decks. Creator, of course, is just perfect for generating virtual realities. Virtual real estate. A virtual reality is just that, an artificial reality constructed via a combination of sense stim and graphic imagery. It's like a pocket universe, often covering entire buildings, cities, or even worlds. Virtual realities are the crowning achievement of interface technology in the 21st century. How big are they? The extent of a virtual reality is based on two things. The first is how much is actually in the reality, or the number of objects contained in it, to be exact. Size doesn't really have much to do with the number of objects contained in a reality. A tiny figurine, for example, is far more complex than a huge box and will take up far more memory to create. To simplify this, we simply count the total number of objects existing in the reality, averaging the levels of complexity over all the objects within. The result gives us a pretty good thumbnail for how much memory, in MU, will be required to create a given reality. Creator, it's sort of like a Build-A-Universe kit in a box. Sorta godlike, yeah? Spider Murphy. The actual space covered by the reality doesn't matter. You could build a huge virtual reality with only 100 or so items. If one of them is an endless sky and the other is miles of empty grassland, what's important to the design is the number of separate objects that must be interacted with inside the reality. This can lead to some interesting shortcuts. Want to build a huge mansion but don't have the MU for it? Build it as a 1000 object reality, and make your vast shelves of books in the library all one object. Sure, you won't be able to pick up and read an individual book, but you don't often climb up there anyway. Make all of the walls as single objects. You won't be able to open windows or move pictures, but they'll look nice, and so on. How much can be contained in a reality is pretty much up to the referee. He's the one who is best able to judge how much you will be able to interact with in a game context. After all, besides, he'll be the one who describes your virtual reality to you as part of the game. The descriptions in the table below are primarily there for reference. Your referee may decide that an aircraft carrier with a squadron of F-18s will only require 10,000 objects, just as long as most of the jets are simple, non-flying shapes, and that the only places you actually ever go to are your cabin, the flight deck, and the bridge. Or he may decide that if you want a fully functional office, it will require 10,000 objects just to cover every piece of paper, individual pencil, or paperclip. Virtual limits table. Number of objects, description, and MU required. 100 objects, virtual conference room, 1 MU. 1000 objects, complex conference or office, 2. 10,000 objects, complex office or virtual rec area, 4. 100,000 objects, virtual building, 8. 1 million objects, complex building or virtual city, 16. 1 billion objects, complex city or virtual world, 32. Creating individual objects. The creation of individual objects is also possible. It's just a pain in the neck when you have to make an entire universe. After all, do you really want to visualize every single leaf on every tree in a forest? However, you may occasionally want to create a single item for a specific reason. A book you want to read or a meal you want to eat. As a general rule, it takes about 0.01 MU to create any simple object. About 0.02 MU would create a fully functional object of reasonable complexity. As with the creation of larger realities, exactly how much memory is required to create a single object is up to the referee. Reality level. The second component of a virtual reality is the level of its realism. The greater the realism, the more objects within the reality relate in ways you expect. Things in the reality have color, shadow, reflections, textures, tastes, and sounds. They can pass through each other, around each other, and throw shadows. Here's an example. There are a lot of ways to create a car. You can draw it as a box with a smaller box on top and 4 donuts for wheels. You can sketch it realistically, with the color, curves, and reflections a real car would have. You can paint it in the super realistic style of a modern artist, so real that the chrome seems to shine. You can take a photograph of a real car, or you can build a real car. Each one of these steps represents an increase in the realism of the car. As you go up the scale, the car gets more real all the time. Reflections and shadow, texture, tastes, sounds, and weights can all exist at varying levels of realism in a virtual reality. All it takes is the right program and enough memory to implement it. Creator is that program. Using a huge database of digital braindance recordings and three-dimensional reality modeling routines, Creator sets the level of realism for the entire construct, choosing and creating images from the database. As part of the reality's ground rules, all objects contained with the reality will be of the same level of realism throughout. Creator has 5 levels of realism. Science meets game. Some of you more math-orientated types are going to immediately, as staff editor Will Mr. Science Moss pointed out when he read this section, realize that the number of objects in a virtual reality rises by an order of magnitude, while the MU required doesn't. Here's the catch. Most of the objects in a large virtual reality are actually repeaters. Things that are so much like other similar things that they don't require their own special codes to create them. Instead, they steal their construction formulas from something very similar. Sort of like a Go subroutine for you programming types. Each time you create an object of a particular class, you just use the subroutine to create it. For example, in the Arasaka Castle reality, there are hundreds of guards. They just all look the same, only with minor variations. See The Crowd, page 163. In a virtual city, all of the cars are pretty similar, just like all of the buildings, birds, trees, rocks, signs, telephone poles, etc. This is how, in our game universe at least, we get around the problem of MU size versus object count. Of course, the main reason is that in a game context, to hold a billion object virtual world would require at least 100,000 MU, reflecting true orders of magnitude, which would in turn require at least 10,000 MU. No one would ever have enough memory to build really interesting virtual realities, and the game would be a lot less fun as a result. Simple. The object is like a cartoon. There are colors and blocky shapes, but no shading, texture, or differences in tastes. All objects weigh the same, feel the same to the touch, make the same limited sounds. Bonk, beep. Contextual. The reality is like a really good video game. There is color and shading. Textures are limited, but soft things feel soft, hard things feel hard, rough things feel rough, and smooth things smooth. Tastes are sweet, sour, salty, and acidic. Things make sounds that are much like they do in real life. A car engine sounds pretty much like a car, a bird like a bird, but lack definition as they are created from digital sound recordings. Fractal. The reality is very much like real life. Each object has a distinct taste, sound, and texture. Colors are blended smoothly, and objects are shiny, dull, transparent, and opaque. There is hot and cold, but not fine degrees of temperature. Distance and the relationship of other objects have effects on each other. Planes pass through clouds and the air gets misty, the sun reflects off water, etc. Photorealistic. The reality is much like a very, very good movie. Tastes are very close to what they are in real life, as are textures, sounds, and colors. Light reflects naturally off of objects. Things relate almost exactly like they do in actuality. Waves move and reflect light in interesting patterns. Trees blow in the wind. Dust rises off the furniture. Things are hot and cold relative to each other. Super realistic. If there's a difference between this and the real thing, you can't tell. Multiply the MU cost of the virtual construct by the multiplier for the level of reality to determine its final MU cost. Realism multipliers. Simple at times 1, contextual at times 2, fractal at times 3, photorealistic at times 4, super realistic for times 5. Getting the job done. Creating a universe isn't an easy task. It takes the patience and imagination of a god to pull it off. To create a virtual reality, you must make a skill check higher than the difficulty number for that size of creation. This reflects your ability to interface with the creator program and successfully direct it in the process of virtual reality construction. 1 object is automatic, 100 objects is 10, 1,000 15, 10,000 20, 100,000 25, 1,000,000 30, 1,000,000,000 35. Making it more or less real isn't a problem. Creator automatically sets the level of realism as desired and models its constructs accordingly. Pooling. Sometimes you may not be able to create what you want at all. The task is just too big. However, 2 or more netrunners can pool their combined intelligence and interface skills and add a 1d10 roll to the total of this amount. They can divide the time for construction between themselves as well. This is how very large commercial virtuals are created. A team of netrunners splits the work up, with each one taking a specific part of the visualization task. How long will it take? Actually, a lot less time than you'd suspect. Creator works from the user's ability to visualize. It then generates an object from its memory as closely as possible to the user's visualization. Objects are created at the speed of thought. As a rule, 1 object is 1 second, 100 objects 2 minutes, 1,000 objects 15 minutes, 10,000 objects 2 hours, 100,000 objects 24 hours, 1 million objects 240 hours, a billion objects 2400 hours, spreading it all out. You can spread out the memory cost of a virtual reality by placing it over adjacent memories. The actual load can be broken up into equal amounts and delegated to specific memories. Or divided unequally with the overflow going into an empty memory. All memories used in a virtual reality must be adjacent to each other in the architecture of the system. Doing it in sections. You can elect to start small when constructing a virtual reality. Most humans can't possibly visualize every contingency of a billion object reality, and there isn't much point to building a billion object space if you can't fill it. The easiest way to do this is to do a small section first, then add another part of the reality adjacent to the first until the entire memory is filled. You can then extend new sections to the next memory. The Arasaka Castle reality in Osaka was constructed in this way. The upper management has a full team of programmers. Populating your reality. Okay, now you've made yourself a real nice place to play. Now it's time for some actors. Virtual realities are basically stage sets with buildings, sky, trees, and ground all serving as the major locations. Cars, AVs, books, furniture, etc. are all props in the virtual construct. But if you want other people to relate to, you need to create those separately as programs. There are 3 kinds of people you can construct to populate a virtual reality. The crowd. The crowd is an interactive program with limited conversational ability and a pseudo-intellect. The crowd tends to act like, well, a crowd. All of its members think and do about the same things. For example, if the crowd is at a party, they will mill about, chatter aimlessly about nothing, and ooh and ah if you do something really interesting. However, if you attempt to engage a single member of the crowd in conversation, he or she will only be able to utter banal pleasantries like, yeah, nice party, and hey, what about those? Giants, 49ers, Bears, Yankees, etc. The crowd doesn't have a memory option, so if you meet someone from the crowd elsewhere, he will stammer, try to pretend that he remembers you, and generally do all the things you would in a similar situation. Who says this is an artificial reality? To create a crowd takes a difficulty of 16, multiplied by whatever you spend for its level of realism. A crowd takes up 1 MU for every 100 people involved. The same crowd can be used in any part of the virtual reality. It just gets moved around and redressed for the next scene. Crowds are often sold on the open market or traded among netrunners. After all, everyone needs a change from the same old crowd. I know what you want, and I'm ready to interface with you. Virtual Vicky LDL 2543.9280. There's something really twisted about the idea of a virtual prostitution BBS. Spider Murphy. Individuals. These are characters with all the pseudo-intellect and conversational abilities of the crowd, but with a memory option as well. They represent key players in your virtual reality and can relate to you very much as real people would. They remember your name, what you've done together, and even have their own personality quirks. Each individual has a difficulty of 21, multiplied by whatever you spend for its level of realism, and takes up 2 memory units of space. But this can be well worth it if the individual is your own virtual cute blonde movie starlet, or hunk. Individual programs can often be bought or copied from other sources. There is a booming business in providing these one-of-a-kind programs for virtual use. Most bulletin boards and shopping boards have advertising sections for individual copies. These are known as meat markets, slave pits, and casting couches. Prices range from a couple hundred eddies for the boring history professor model, or 2,000 or 3,000 for the Zarkonian love god/goddess model. Knew a guy once who created a virtual of his boss in the Microtech system. Every night he'd cut it loose in a night city simulation and hunt it down. One evening, he was out on the street when he saw his boss getting out of a taxi. The guy went completely offline. It took 4 C-SWAT cops to pull him off the body. Edgar. Offensive/defensive programs. Not all the inhabitants of a virtual reality are simple-minded conversation pieces. Any offensive or defensive program can, for an extra few difficulty points, be outfitted with an interactive option. Conversational ability and pseudo-intellect. This allows the program to have a decorative function as well as a protective one. You can come home to your virtual castle, put up your feet in your virtual chair, have your virtual servant pour you a virtual drink, and relax while petting your virtual and deadly hellhound on its shaggy metal head. A sample reality. The Hunt Club is a BBS establishment in the Olympian region of the net. Its real space coordinates are probably somewhere outside of Denver, although no one knows for certain. The Hunt Club consists of a single 1 million object complex building reality. The realism level is super realistic, which raises the required memory space from the base 16MU to 80MU. Due to the limitations of space, the virtual reality is stored in 8 large adjacent memory spaces in the Hunt Club's data fortress. The majority of the club consists of the mansion, which is contained in memories 1 and 2. Most of the mansion is made up of a huge English Tudor-style rooms filled with bric-a-brac and curios. These many rooms are quite simple: floors, carpets, drapes, paneled walls with non-removable paintings. Only the furniture is mobile. Each room has a heavy oak door with a brass plate designating its function. Most are used as conversation rooms for the many members of the BBS who visit here. It's a good place to exchange information, play games, and otherwise socialize. It fills the position of the various areas of a standard bulletin board. Because the mansion is limited to a few large objects, it uses very little actual memory. Most of memory number 3 is taken up with the garden, a reproduction of an English garden with roses, walks, a small reflecting pool, and a croquet green. The edge of the garden is bounded by a high hedge and the sky. The virtual reality stops here, and going beyond this is impossible. The drawing room occupies a large part of memories 4 and 5, and is by far the most complex of the rooms, accessible only to senior members of the club. It contains the Hunt Club's extensive files, disguised as old books behind moving panels in the walls, a message board, designated to resemble a hotel cubby-hole box, and its entertainment, game, and program library. This library is presided over by an alarm program known as DENT. DENT contains functions for detection, alarm, and interactive options, including the ability to remember events and people, recognize cyber signals, obey commands, conversational ability, pseudo-intelligence, and constant activity. The DENT program is of strength 6 and is super realistic icon of a bored and somewhat nasal English butler. In addition to DENT, the drawing room is also home to the Dog, a strength 8 modified Hellhound program. The Dog is programmed to react to any alarm raised by DENT, whereupon it will attack the intruder. The dining room occupies most of memories 6 and 7. It is a baroque hall with a vast table loaded with rare foods and wines. Because of the many individual dishes served, this room takes up a lot of object space. When additional memory is required elsewhere, parts of the dining room's banquet is de-resed by the club's sysops to free up space. Okay, so that was section 10, the second half for Netrunning, the last 21 pages out of a total of 48 pages. Very, very strange. I like data fortresses. It's a fun way to give your netrunner something to interact with and to traverse translated real space and virtual space. I can see how you could design a data fortress to be really hard to besiege from the outside. So in order for a netrunner to actually do anything useful by getting into the data fortress, they would have to jack in or plug in from within the actual building itself. Because what are the odds that they're going to have actual security on the interior of their data fortress? They know that all the threats to their data fortress are from the outside. Of course, they could have some patrolling program or something fancy. You see that there's a ton of options, especially from the creating your own program section, that you can have programs that can do a billion different things. The corporations have no small pool of resources or manpower to pull these sorts of things off. So pretty much anything that the referee wants could probably go. In other words, you could say that they would spare no expense. The really bizarre part of this whole netrunning chapter are the virtual realities. What person? I have never heard of the rules for virtual realities for netrunning in Cyberpunk 2020 ever. This is the first time I'm actually reading about it. They have a huge rule set, a very in-depth rule set to create your virtual reality to very specific specifications that can range from being pixely games that are cartoonish to ultra realistic reality like it's the Matrix. It's a very cool system, but my question is, when are you ever going to use this for any Cyberpunk 2020 game? The context behind this, I have no idea what it is. You could, in theory, build all of Dungeons and Dragons within a virtual world and then maybe store some really cool data there, or have your netrunners go on like some sort of huge side quest in a fantasy land, or like just have like a fun GTA clone, or flavor wise you can have like just Second Life but Cyberpunk version. But like I'm not really sure when I'm ever gonna use these rules. It's cool, but it hugely detracts from the main game, which is already a tabletop simulation. Now they're saying that the referee could, in theory, make a simulation for the simulation. It's pretty meta, and I think it makes sense why no one really talks about or has even heard of these rules for netrunning, and why people give netrunning for Cyberpunk 2020 such a weird and, like, bad reputation. This whole section, this whole latter half, the last 5 pages and the rules that it presents for virtual realities for netrunning is completely like separated from the main game and what you'll be doing. It has literally nothing to do with like actual gameplay, at least not that I'm directly seeing. Maybe some veterans of the game who played rules as written can like inform me as to like if they ever use this and if it was like a big fun thing to do, not just as like an offshoot, but like as part of the main game. I really can't see it. It would be cool to maybe visit a place like that in NetSpace. That would be like an interesting location. Maybe in the specialized netrunning book, they have some really cool places, but like, I am never gonna probably build a virtual reality in this system. Maybe the players might if they get really bored, but I mean, that's a sign that you as a referee have probably ran a really boring or bad game. So, it's cool that it exists, it gives a little lore, it flushes out the world and how it operates, but yeah, I don't think I'll ever use it, just period. The custom programs are pretty cool. It's like making your own spells, and the data fortresses are like the bread and butter of netrunning into the net. So those are really cool. I like them both. I am probably going to generate a bunch of different data fortresses, and that'll be fun for my netrunners to play with. And yeah, I think definitely the design that I'm going to approach netrunning with, because I do want to run it in a game, but I don't want it to take up like a whole secondary game for just one specific player. So I'm definitely going to design it where a data fortress is heavily armored from the outside, and really the only way to get in, the only realistically feasible way to get in, should be to actually just go into the building and jack in, and the security will be lower because they're going to be looking for threats on the outside rather than the inside. And that's the simple solution. But yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts on netrunning. That was the longest section, I think, of the entire book. I'm glad it's over. Upcoming next for sections 11 through, I think, 15, it's going to be a bunch of cool lore and some fun reads. So until next time.